Good afternoon, everyone. As the United States Consul General in Barcelona, it is a special honor for me that my first remarks at the Barcelona Model United Nations Conference coincide with the commemoration of the 70th anniversary of the founding of the United Nations. The UN has played a crucial role in resolving conflict, providing humanitarian assistance, spurring sustainable development, promoting human rights, helping refugees, and overall pursuing a more just and peaceful world. Today, in the United States, we celebrate the special holiday of Thanksgiving when we pause to reflect on the past year and, of course, to give thanks. I'm very thankful today that all of you are dedicating time to consider the challenges that face our world and how to solve them through international cooperation. As the terrorist attacks in Paris and so many other locations have shown, we need that cooperation and increased understanding now more than ever. Terrorist attacks are not attacks against one population. They are an attack on all civilization, on all of humanity, and on the universal values that we share and that are represented by the United Nations. So, your theme this year of international peace and security is an especially timely and important one. I remember visiting the UN in New York with my parents during the UN's 50th anniversary 20 years ago. Learning about its mission and achievements and seeing the almost 200 flags together, representing the UN's diverse members attempting to address global challenges through dialogue, helped motivate me to become a diplomat, and I joined the United States Foreign Service 5 years later. Speaking before the 70th meeting of the UN General Assembly, President Obama noted the progress the international community has made toward a more consistent system of international rules and norms. Today, we all take for granted the role of the UN in the realm of international relations. But back in the early 20th century, there wasn't such a thing. Can you imagine what it was like for those who shaped what would later become the UN? It was the tense post-World War II realities which led to the founding of the United Nations in 1945. And getting agreement on this unprecedented international organization was far from easy. At that time, 51 countries ratified the UN Charter during a signing ceremony in San Francisco. Now, there are 193 member states. As President Obama pointed out, the UN was founded because some men and women had the foresight to know that our nations are more secure when we pursue a path of cooperation over conflict. All of us must build upon the work of the last 7 decades. No country can solve the many global challenges we face alone. We cannot counter extremism and terrorism alone. We must stand together. We must foster international partnerships and collaboration. That is why Model UN conferences, like the one you are participating in today, are an indispensable tool to build confidence and hope in the UN as a global forum of dialogue and positive change among your generation. Since the end of World War II, the United Nations has provided a forum for all countries to come together around the same rules and norms to help advance development and security, bolster ties between member states, and conquer disease, hunger, and poverty. The United States currently has clear strategic objectives in the framework of the UN that are advanced through our ambassador there, Samantha Power. Those are strengthening multilateral peace operations, countering terrorism and violent extremism with our partners, setting a sustainable development agenda for the next 15 years, and reaching a landmark agreement on climate change. Climate change is a threat to security and stability everywhere. It is indeed a global challenge which requires a global solution. Starting early next week, Paris will host a landmark summit under the UN framework to address climate change. We hope it will put in place for the first time an ambitious, durable, and transparent global climate change agreement that curbs carbon emissions and spurs the growth of clean energy. President Obama has committed the United States to work with every nation that is willing to do its part so that we can decisively confront this challenge. I encourage you to follow the Paris climate change talks. As upcoming leaders of your generation, you have an important role to play. And there are multiple ways for you to interact and make your voice heard in today's interconnected world. The strength of nations depends on the success of their people, their knowledge, their innovation, their imagination, their creativity, said President Obama in his speech at the General Assembly. What I've found during almost 16 years serving as a diplomat is that international relations are, at the end of the day, relations among people, whether they are presidents or ordinary citizens. President Obama also remarked that the people of our United Nations are not as different as they are told. We are called upon to offer a different type of leadership, leadership strong enough to recognize that nations share common interests and people share a common humanity. As you work during this conference, I encourage you to remember the interest of your country you represent and study the interests of the countries represented by your interlocutors. Try to find where your and their interests overlap, and then use that common interest to reach agreement. In the rare cases where there is no overlap, explain your position passionately but politely to attempt to win the other representative to your side. This is the critical work of diplomacy that occurs around the world every day, work that prevents and resolves conflicts and builds mutual understanding and action toward a shared purpose. I love serving my country as a diplomat. Wish you the best as you engage in the challenge of multilateral diplomacy during this conference, and hope to see many of you representing your countries as diplomats in the future. We need committed global citizens like you in order to ensure that tomorrow is better than yesterday and better than today, better for humankind and better for the planet we share. Make the most of this extraordinary experience, which you will surely remember throughout your future career. Thank you.